This is Randall Ham, host of the Sunday Morning Gospel Show, with a very special artist spotlight this morning, spotlighting a group that was a very much an integral part of the beginning of gospel music, along with the Spear Family and many other classic groups, talking about Uncle Alf, Urias, Eva Mae, Pierce, and Mylan as well. The LeFevre name goes back a number of years, based out of the Atlanta, Georgia area, and I'm looking at a long line of folks that have been in the LeFevres or are relatives of the LeFevres, and they've all sang in various forms of the LeFevre group. We're going to start with the two members who were in a... You said it, Ron. I didn't. We're speaking with Ron Daly and Barbara Hodge Roach, who sang with Uncle Alf, Urias, and Eva Mae in the early 70s version of LeFevre's. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning, Randall. Good to talk to you this morning.
And Ron?
Randall, good to be here.
All righty. Main question is, how many years were you two with Uncle Alf, Urias, and Eva Mae in the 70s group?
I was there only a couple years.
Yeah, we worked together with them about a year.
Yeah.
Ron and I did.
1971, 72? 72.
Yeah.
And you were on the album that had probably the biggest hit of the LeFevres, I've Come Too Far to Look Back.
Around, don't look back again. Face the new day before you. Place your heartache in my Jesus' hand. He can mend broken dreams. I've come too far to look back. My feet have walked through the valley. I've climbed mountains, crossed rivers, desert places I've known, but I'm nearing the home shore. The redeemed are rejoicing. Heaven's angels are singing. I've come too far to look back. Too far to.
Actually, the album that I'm on, I think Ron got to be on two different ones.
Yes, I did.
But he was on it. But the album the last one that we're on, our pictures aren't on there. Because when you leave a group, they put new pictures on there.
Right.
They airbrush you out. No.
We had a blast traveling back then. And Ron Daly, the Ron Daly, has not changed a bit in 40 years. He is still as crazy now as he was back then.
Tell us about the appearance on the Porter Wagner show. How cool was that?
That was pretty cool, because Dolly Parton was there. I don't know this Porter guy you're talking about. I don't know.
I know somebody else who was there too, and you don't remember that, but Bob Harrington was
Yeah, that's right.
there.
Bob Bourbon Street Preacher.
Yes.
It was great. It was fun.
It was a
lot
great
of fun.
show. Great
See, we
show.
had done a fair with him in Ohio,
Uh-huh.
and then they invited us to the show. So it was kind of we enjoyed that outdoor deal with them, and then they invited us to the show. So it was
We got
fun.
to go on Porter Wagner's bus and
Yes.
tour all that when we were in Ohio. Yeah.
I tried to talk him out of a couple of these suits, and he wouldn't do it. Like that.
I'd love to have one of those suits.
It was a fun time.
And we're going to move back here to the next batch of LeFevres. By 1976, everybody had retired, including Eva Mae, turned the group over to Rex Nealon and eventually became the Nealons. But Uncle Alf, decided he still wanted to get out and sing and do some dates. You sang with Uncle Alf's new group. You were speaking with?
My name's Rick Campbell.
To an altar, I knelt down to pray. I felt the Holy Spirit come down my way. Well, my soul began to tremble, and the joy began to roll. Let me tell you about Jesus, how he gladly saved my soul.
I did. It started out as the Alphys LeFevre Singers, and then it later turned. Rex Nealon kept the name for 5 years, and then after 5 years, he gave the name back to Uncle Alf, and he called it Uncle Alf LeFevre's, and his last album was actually called the LeFevres, but it had his daughter Marla his son Scott. It also featured at one point Karen Peck. What's the guy who was with the Crab Family? Mike Bowling and Michelle Davis, and I got to be a part of that group. So I'm the
gospel music talent passed through that group.
They did. Uncle Alf was a genius. I would have told these guys that if I got a part wrong, I couldn't slip it by. He would hear it, and he'd put me on the bus that morning, or as soon as that concert was over. And until I got that part right, he would make me sit beside that big old chair in the lobby of that bus until I got it right. There was no room for error with him.
So what was it like working with Uncle Alf?
He was a gentle genius. He was never overpowering. He was kind. He was probably the ultimate or one of the finest Christians I've ever met. I didn't just work with him. I lived with him. Barbara lived with Eva May, and I lived with Uncle Alf, and I got to see what he was like in his home life. One of the finest men I've ever known in my life.
One thing that Uncle Alf did was he would tune the piano
Wherever we went.
before the program. Now everybody has keyboards and all that kind of thing, but back then, you didn't know what kind of piano you was going to run into.
And you're talking to Mark Fuller.
And so he would tune the piano before the program. And another thing about Uncle Alf was he didn't only teach you your part by singing it to you, he would write it down on paper. I think a lot of people didn't realize what a genius he really was. Don't you agree? Or y'all know?
agree.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he just loves you.
I'm ready to go to a land without heartaches, no sorrow or woe. There's nothing can hold me in this world below. Oh, I'm homesick for heaven. I've got a longing to go. I'm homesick for heaven. I've got a longing to go.
Mark plays the piano. You heard him today, just like Eva May. And you'll play that music this morning so they can hear Mark. And Mark played with Eva May for what, 10 years?
For the last 10 years of her life, I played piano and traveled with her and drove the car and all that kind of thing. But I grew up just loving the LeFevres, and I was 11 years old when the when Now and Always, the album that Barbara's featured on, was released. And of course, Ron was on there, and Ron was on the album New Sounds of the LeFevres, which had the original Ive Come Too Far. Right. And his wife, Barbara Daly, was on there.
And then back here, you've got a real LeFevre bloodline. This is Marcy Gray. Marcy's grandma was a sister to Alphas and Urias, and she's just a sweetheart. And so when we put this reunion together, there was, of course, one thing missing, and Marcy popped up, and we needed her. And to say hello to Marcy Gray.
So what is your memories of that time?
Oh, I grew up going to family reunions, and my happiest childhood memories were from the summers I spent with the LeFevre reunion and with my family and at Uncle Alf's house. I have pictures of me sitting on his lap when I was just a little tyke, and he would share his food with me. And I sang with them when I was 10 or 12 on stage. I remember my knees knocking together so bad he had to hold me up. But my dream was to sing with Uncle Alf because he was always my hero, and just such a sweet, sweet uncle to everybody, family or not. But
He was.
But this is just such a pleasure to be with people that actually traveled and sang with him, and precious people then and now. And miss him like crazy. Miss my whole family that's up in heaven. I'm looking forward to that reunion. It's going to be a wonderful day.
Yeah.
And we're going to speak with the newest member who is helping out her mother in the LeFevre reunion.
Second generation.
Second
here.
generation, right. Becca Roach. And Becca, you've got a lovely daughter and you're expecting. And how do you feel about the LeFevre heritage here?
Well, I think it's a pleasure to be a part of it. I've heard a lot about it my whole life. So it's nice to meet some people that my mom knew, get together with everyone, and be able to be a part of it.
Let's just go down the line here. We're going to ask a favorite memory of your time with the LeFevres, whatever group you were in. Is your maybe favorite or funniest memory of being in the group? Ron Daly.
I'll do the quick version. We stopped to get fuel one night. Everybody gets off the bus. They run in, do what they got to do. I'm standing picking cards out. Eva May comes out of the bathroom and walks past a minor bird in a big cage. And as she walked by, I went, hello. And she stopped and looked at that bird, and she walked up to the bird, and the bird doesn't say anything. So she started to walk away and said, hello. I said, hello again. So she's thinking that bird's talking to her. So she stands there and she kept trying to get it to talk. Hello, hello. It wouldn't say anything. So she starts for the bus. She gets about 10 steps away, and I said, Eva May. And she stopped. Now she thinks the bird knows her. And I didn't tell her for about 3 hours until I got on the bus, and I thought that was my last trip. Like, we're sitting there 3 hours down the road, and I said, Eva May. So that was a short version, but it was good.
Your favorite, maybe funniest moment of being in the LeFevres?
Well, since Ron is sitting here, there's too many to pick a favorite, but this one is hilarious, and I'm going to look at him and see if he remembers. We were at Shepherd of the Hills, okay, over in Missouri, and we sang on the stage down there. We went in the dressing rooms, and you know they have these plays, and we go in the dressing rooms. The men's were real close to the women's. I go in to get changed, and he and Rex Nealon were in the other side.
We don't remember this, by the way.
He and Rex Nealon were in the other side, and while I'm standing changing in my little cubbyhole room there, this gun goes off. I don't know to this day if it was Rex or Ron. I think it was Rex. They scared the living daylights out of me. Was it you or Rex?
That would be Rex.
That was hilarious. But I made it through there. I just about had heart failure because I thought it was one of the guns for the play, and I thought somebody was shooting at me.
She sung a lot higher that night.
Yes.
One other time, this is good. This has got to be good. You didn't cut up on stage on purpose with your rice, did you? He was the boss.
No.
And sometimes, though, I was young and I got tickled at a lot of things. I was 21. And Uncle Al had this little cord, and they had short cords and they had long cords, and this stage was about a foot off. It was a county fair in East Tennessee. And Rex was singing I Love to Call His Name, and on that last chorus, we'd all walk up even with Rex and sing, and Uncle Alf just kept going and stepped right off the stage, and the cord jerked him back, and I thought I was going to get fired that night because I completely lost it. I laughed. There are just so many fun memories.
We did some playing, but we didn't let people know it. We had one of those little pinchy little clothespins, and so we had that, and we'd pass it to different people. Eva May would take off on joy bells are ringing or something, and she'd look down on her sleeve, and that pin was that clothespin was on her sleeve. Or Rex would say, I loved it, and look down, and it's on his coat collar. So I'd step out to do a solo, it's hooked to my back of my coat. It just showed up for a long time, and then we replaced it with a little blue baby sock. Eva May would take off playing, and halfway down the keyboard, down the keys would be that little sock. So it hung around for a while. We didn't let Uriah see a lot of it, but it was still fun.
We kept him from knowing a lot of things.
Rick, your favorite memory or funniest moment from
This
singing
is actually when Barbara, and she tells this story too, but when Uncle Alf and I was singing in Effingham, Illinois, Barbara was with us back in 1984, so she's been along with us for just about every kind of version of LeFevre's you can get. But he gave an altar call, and this gentleman came forward, or some people came forward, and Uncle Alf kept on singing his song, He Just Loves Me More and More. And the more he sang, the more that rope would get tangled around that cord would get tangled around that poor old guy who was at the altar. And What'd you say he said, Robert?
Scott looked at me and said, Daddy done lassoed one. He's going to get saved whether he wants to or not.
And Uncle Ive, he was just oblivious to what was going on.
He had no idea.
He had that was a long cord. It's a wonder that guy didn't choke to death.
I'm telling you. It was fun.
The answer came while I was kneeling there in prayer. The answer came. I felt His mighty saving power. Now home in heaven is waiting for me. When I cross over the mystic sea, I'm praising the Lord each day that the answer came. I'm praising the Lord each day that the answer came. I'm praising the Lord each day that the answer came. I'm praising the Lord each day that the answer came.
Your time with Eva Mae, funniest or most memorable moment?
I was sitting here thinking, I thought, well, I don't know which memory to pull up, but I thought about it. I can remember, I'm going to go back way back when I was a kid and I wasn't even traveling with Eva Mae. I went to see the LeFevres. I was 11 years old, like I said. It was a co-op in LaGrange, Georgia. I'm from down close to Atlanta. And they had this album, and I would play the album, and I would, they had two ladies with them named Barbara. And so I was only 11, and I thought, okay, the lady on the New Sounds of LeFevre's is Barbara Daly. But I didn't pay attention to the last name. So she said, Barbara, and they introduced Barbara. So I went home. I thought, it don't sound the same. So I go back home and play my record. But trying with Eva Mae, I'm going back to her. I can remember sitting there. I can still remember that day. The first time I ever got her autograph was that day. I was so nervous. I went up and asked for the sheet music. I loved Child of the King. They never sung Child of the King. But I went up to her, and she signed her autograph for me that day. And I still have that sheet music. But traveling with Eva Mae was a pleasure, and she spoke what she thought.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that I learned from her. And but memories, I don't know. There's so many that runs through my mind. I can't pick a favorite. Yeah.
Family memory.
I think my favorite memories were we stayed at Center Hill Motel, which turned into, I guess it changed ownership at some point. It wasn't a nice place, but we were staying there year after year for the reunions. There would be guitars and singing coming out of every one of those motel rooms, and the doors would be open. It was a one-story hotel, and just everybody was as true as they are, and just as they love the Lord, and the family sing times. There was harmony coming out of every room, and that's just precious memories for me.
Yeah, that's great.
You've recorded, as a group here, what's called LeFevre Reunion 2012. Now, how did y'all get together? Was this a 3-day thing, a year thing, or how did y'all get together to put this together?
Last year, we did a little rehearsing with Ron and Rick and Michelle Davis and I, and came and you heard us. We sang last year. But Rick and I started working, and then we recruited Mark, and Ron's, he's just our sidekick, so he's there. We came together this year. We decided this will be fun. Let's record this. So I have a friend who has a recording studio that came over. We rehearsed about 4 hours. Sounds like we rehearsed about 4. No, it's really pretty good. And the next morning we sang at our church, and we recorded it live. And we're going to be doing some more recording, and we want to do a few dates next year. We've just got to get our schedules together. So, Randall, you need to get us up there in French Lick, somewhere close by, and we'll come up. Maybe we can work it out where we can do a promotion, have the LeFevre Quartet and the reunion.
That would work.
And do a weekend up there.
Barbara's always the promoter, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Promoter first.
Things get done with Barbara, without a doubt.
As we close out this interview, if you can kind of aggregate, what do you think maybe what lasting legacy that the LeFevres maybe have put into gospel music of today? What maybe the LeFevres may have changed something, What legacy do you think the LeFevres have left behind still today in the world of gospel music?
You know what? I believe, if I'm not wrong, they were either the first or one of the first to bring out all the instruments on the stage. We're talking about horns, guitars, steel guitar, when everybody else was just using piano. And they were amazing because it seemed like somebody could change instruments and just play everything you wanted. They could play it. And so that was pretty awesome. That is a legacy in itself. And of course, Mylon LeFevre wrote the song Without Him. That will forever be. Everybody will remember that. And there's quite a story behind that song too.
Pierce did quite a bit of the arranging.
And Pierce was a good arranger, and nobody could play that trumpet like Pierce LeFevre. But they were just very, very instrumental. I mean, they could play anything. And one of my favorite things is when they used to do 20 fingers on the keyboard, and they played joy bells.
Joy bells.
And they would trade ends and switch back and forth on the keyboard. I'm surprised they didn't knock each other off the bench.
Now, didn't they also have their own publishing company,
Yes.
Sing Music, one of the first groups to do
LeFevre
that?
Sing, and they had, when I first got to Atlanta, when I flew in there, and I got to tour everything. That was before I got, LeFevre Sound. That's where we recorded. But they took me there. Your guys took me first to their house and then to the studio to show me around. And of course, there was Pierce LeFevre, and he wasn't singing with them then, and Maurice. And so I got acquainted with the LeFevres right away in a big, beautiful recording studio. And then to their home. And I lived in the green room when I was there. But then I moved later and lived with the secretary. But there's a lot of legacy there of God's love. And when I think of God's love, it automatically go to Uncle Alf, because no one loved Eva Mae, loved Urias, loved every one of them. But there's no one like Uncle Alf. I think everybody here will agree with that. He was a true soldier of the Lord, of the cross, Uncle Alf.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.
You are so welcome.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, my friend.
And thank you, Ron.
Thank you, sir.
They are known as LeFevre Reunion. Look for them in your town for the LeFevre Reunion concert. And this is Randall Ham with a very special Artist Spotlight segment on the Sunday Morning Gospel Show.